Welcome back to the Peak Performance Podcast. Today we are tackling the topic 3 mistakes we have made in business so that you don't have to. So I have my lovely co-host Sean with me. It's just a solo episode today, Sean. Welcome.
Only 3 mistakes, my goodness.
No.
We could probably go for about 73 hours, but no, I'm looking forward to cracking into this, and hopefully we can just provide a bit of info to assist those who maybe want to get in this realm and not do the same silly things that mainly I did and you picked up the pieces.
All right, so we'll kick off with the first one, and Sean, I'll let you probably talk on this as you were really instrumental in setting up the business from a behind the scenes and financial perspective. So the first mistake that we made in business was around our business structure. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, it's really important. I think people sometimes forget that I was just an S&C coach to do my undergrad degree in human movement and then went on to do a master's in exercise science. And I have done no formal business training at all and still haven't. You know, we've been, I guess you could argue that we've been doing this for 10 years now. I know that people immediately think about PEAQ 2.0, but I registered as a sole trader back in 2013 as extra degree training. Remember there was like a little video going around of water is hot at 99 degrees, but when it gets to 100 degrees, it boils. Something real inspirational.
Perfect.
So
yeah.
I was the extra degree. Blah, blah, whatever it is. It's a bit wanky now, but that's fine. Registered as a sole trader, which I think is a great starting point for everybody.
Can you maybe just explain to everyone what is a sole trader?
Yeah, a sole trader essentially you don't have to, you just register for an ABN. It's relatively inexpensive. If you want to, you can register a business name. Now, really clear for those who maybe are looking into this space, the registration of a business name and then copywriting it or trademarking it are two very, very different things and two very, very different price points. If you are literally using your name, so if I was like Sean Baker PT, you don't have to pay for that. You can just sort of utilize that. So, but I really had no idea sort of, what the pros and cons of other business structures were. And we got to a point in time with our accountant in which, you had started to get more involved in the business and you were generating some form of income from it while you were still studying. And our accountant at that point in time said, hey, have you considered maybe looking at a family trust? Because that means you can start to distribute some of your incomings to both Jamie and yourself. And essentially, I won't sort of go into too much detail, but you pay a lump sum upfront for the construction of this family trust. We have a beautiful thing in Australia called the tax-free threshold, of which off the top of my head is about $18,200. So for the first $18,200 you make per year, whether you are an employee or self-employed, you don't get taxed on. You get taxed every dollar on top of that. So at that point in time, instead of paying you like a wage, you would distribute you some of the incomings or 50% of the incomings of the family trust. You get the tax-free threshold. I get the tax-free threshold. And then, you pay on top of that. So there are some benefits to that. Also, if you have beneficiaries, so it could be family, could be kids. Your kids have to be above 18, unfortunately, to be able to distribute any more than $500 to. So we could distribute $500 to Matilda and Harry, so they're not really sort of pulling their own weight at the moment.
Not yet. If anything, they're taking our resources away.
If you have maybe very wealthy parents or grandparents who are retired, you could have them as beneficiaries, but just understand that if you put them down as beneficiaries to your business and they claim a tax-free threshold, they stop getting maybe their pension or their benefits from the government as well. So just be really clear on that. Don't just go signing up nan and granddad for the sake of it, because they might be in a bit of strife. So that was the benefits of a family trust. The other thing is, from a liability perspective, it does give you a little bit of separation from the business. So as a sole trader, although you don't want to think about these worst case scenarios, if something goes awry, if somebody slips over or gets a bulging disc from doing a deadlift while you're training them, they can sue you directly and try to go for your assets. If you are a trust, there is a potential, and again, if they want to go at you hard enough, they can still get to you in a roundabout way. but there's at least one level of separation. They could sue the family trust goes under, and then your personal assets are okay. And then sort of then the next evolution of that for us was we, although we didn't plan it, Burjo and Greg jumped on board, which we were super excited about, but we realised that you can't purchase shares in a family trust. So we had to restructure again. Remember, every time that we restructure the business, you are getting new bank account details, you're getting new zeros, so that's a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. And you've always got people that are slow to uptake it and then pay into your old account. But yeah, we have to restructure to a company. So a company is a little less expensive initially to set up than a trust. However, there's ongoing business expenses to sort of keep your company going. We are now a proprietary limited company in which actually, to be honest with you, we kept our trust. So now the Baker family trust owns shares in the PEAQ business. So now there are multiple levels of separation away from a liability perspective as well. There's also some other tax implications around that. So hopefully that's not too boring, but just gives you an idea of some of the pros and cons of different structures, and how that might benefit your context.
I guess the key message there is we didn't know what we were doing, and don't let that stop you if you don't have that background or expertise in accounting or in business. However, reach out to people, mentors, people who have done it before, and ask questions, and maybe have a bit of a think and figure out what the core of your business is and how you're going to operate and what that looks like, and let that maybe guide your decisions versus just jumping in and getting an ABN and thinking, oh yeah, that looks good and we'll set up like that. Because there are different implications depending on how you set your business up.
Just quickly before we jump into our next point as well, and I've always been really transparent about this, which has been a fun learning journey. On that, we talked about the tax-free threshold and getting taxed above every dollar and blah, 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 blah. Really also important to understand your taxes as well as your business structure, because for us, I know that our first year of business obviously was paying back the expenses that we'd accrued in setting up the first facility. I'll be honest in saying our second and third years were fruitful, which we're very grateful for. And at that point in time, what I probably didn't realise is that we'd outgrown our accountant. Our accountant was just a family operated, pretty much essentially as probably a sole trader, I'm imagining themselves. So we were paying business tax on the income that was coming through. And at that point in time, I thought the rest was ours. I thought, here we go. We're going to buy ourselves a house, and this is very nice, which we appreciate. I remember getting a text message one day from the ATO saying, hey, you owe X amount of dollars to the ATO. I was like, that's a scam. And we waited, and then Jamie started getting messages, and then realised pretty quickly that as well as paying business tax for every dollar that you then take out of the business and put into your own account, you pay personal tax on as well. So be really clear in understanding that. So we got ourselves into a little bit of strife there for a little while. Thankfully, with a lot of hard work and great guidance, we got out of that strife, but something that I would not wish on anybody else.
Excellent. All right. The second mistake that we've made is around, I guess, quotes, finance, making decisions on which companies you go with for, particularly we're going to focus on gym fit out, but I guess it could go with anything that you put within your four walls. Finding a balance between something that maybe is a bit less expensive and also conversely something that seems like top of the shelf, shiny, best on the market. Specifically, if we're talking about equipment, I think we fell down the latter end of that spectrum as we went with a quote that was really, really cheap and undercutted everything else that we got. And at the time, we were obviously low on resources, taking a massive gamble and risk in starting up a business, and we took that cheaper option. Did you want to talk us through what that led to?
Yeah, so for those who haven't, please go back and listen to our chat with our equipment suppliers, Paul, from Xspeed and Kieran from Fitness Warehouse. They've been unbelievable for us, and who we've utilised for the 2.0 and helping us to amend what we originally did in the get-go. But like you said, we were pinching pennies when we were setting up that first facility. So I took the cheapest, nastiest quote on the market. and the gear started falling apart 6 months in.
We had no support.
We had no support. The after-sales service was really poor. The person who I imagine was my original contact and was probably getting some sort of commission for the sale of it disappeared. And all of a sudden we're in no man's land. I had to go back with my tail between my legs to another one of the quotes that we had acquired from the crew at Fitness Warehouse and XSpeed. And, thankfully they got us out of the shit again, to be honest with you. So for me, look at, the price versus the quality. Often you get what you pay for. Look at warranties. Look at customization. Talk to as many other people, probably at this point in time, as the industry continues to grow, there's a pretty good chance there's somebody out there who's already utilizing the gear that you may be looking at. Ask about what their experiences are with that gear. And, we're always open when we have people reach out to us about all of those, aspects. But almost number one above all else is after-sales service. Again, with our suppliers now, if something, if we have a set of bands break, within 24 hours there's something new here. At the moment with Hyrox going off, our wall balls are getting absolutely smashed. We have them, replaced within 24 hours. So try not to always go for the cheapest option because it probably will be more costly in the long run.
Also, conversely, I think it's important to mention that just because a business has a large Instagram following or equipment looks beautiful in another space and it's that really, really top shelf equipment, I think that also doesn't necessarily equate to it being the best thing for your business as well. As you said, obviously, you're going to get what you pay for, and as you move up the scale of cost, things you hope the products are going to be good quality. But I think it's about balancing up different parts of your business, right? So if you went absolute top shelf in every aspect, we're talking recovery, for us, cafe, supplements, gym equipment, flooring, paint, electrical, honestly, you're going to be chasing your tail and your debt for a very, very long time if you went that way. So, and if you think that you can make that up and that's what your business suits your business, then absolutely go for it. Business is all about making decisions and taking risks, but I think it is about having a think about, obviously quality is important, but for us, as we said on the episode with Paul and Kieran, that after sale service for us in a commercial space where things do get high usage was really important to make sure that our equipment is constantly looked after.
And without being too selfish, you need to think of where do you sit on the continuum or in the scale of the supplier you're utilizing. If you have a big global supplier, do they have the chains that are appropriate to reacting to you quickly if you need that support? Do they have a office in the state or representative within your state to be able to address that? And if they don't, I would be questioning very, largely whether that's the most appropriate supplier for you.
Because we've had that as well, without being too specific, in some of the things that we've used before, and they're, maybe a great company to deal with, and our contact has been really amazing. But then once we get it in the building and then we need support on certain things or maintenance, they didn't have somebody within our state to respond to that. And it just drags out the process when you are juggling multiple balls within a business and something like that, you don't have that local support, it's really challenging. All right, our third and final mistake, as we said, amongst many, many others. We're just trying to keep this one nice and sharp and shiny for you to hopefully get the most out of it. I promise you there we've made many more. Our third key point is management style. So being really clear on what type of leader or what type of manager that you want to be and how that is going to interplay with your business morals, with your staffing team and with your community.
This is one I really struggled with, to be honest with you. I am a people pleaser, certainly was in the early stages, and we always had a joke that our staff were much more scared of you than me. We used to play good cop, bad cop because I had a habit of buttering people up, and I really struggled, I'm happy to admit, with tough conversations. I don't know. Something's happened, whether it's fatherhood or whether it's turning 34. But I have got much better in taking emotion out of conversation and trying to focus on objective aspects of whatever we're trying to address at that point in time. I think one of the big turning points, we put a lot of time and effort into upskilling ourselves in lots of areas. I'll give a shout out to actually Matt Krieg, who probably planted the seed for me, or sowed the seed to start off with, in terms of clearly understanding what expectations are from the very get-go of a professional relationship. And that could spill out into other aspects of your life as well, so that it provides a reference point for those tougher conversations in there. I know when we first started, I would have expectations in my own head, but I might not have verbalized those appropriately. Then I would see staff members acting outside of what I thought those parameters should be, and I would get frustrated. But really, I probably should have been understanding that it should be frustration at myself because I hadn't verbalized that. So now, as soon as we onboard somebody, it's really clear what our expectations are. Maybe more involvement in the professional sporting sector in those pressure cooker environments have helped me as well. But yeah, certainly I've always tended to lean on the softer side and the more casual side of management, but am slowly working my way to be a bit more intent for sure.
I think it's been challenging to, obviously, if you've had anything to do with PEAQ or walked in our four walls, that you've felt that community feel, and our motto is closing the gap between local and elite, and we want to provide a space that feels like a local sporting club that you can come in and chat to your mates and feel really welcomed and supported. And that has maybe at times been a negative from a management perspective, because we have modelled that behaviour in amongst our members and our community, and then maybe some of that style of communication or behaviour has also melded itself into the work side of things, which maybe, again, we'll put our hands up and say that that's absolutely comes from us. You know, we're setting the tone and setting as leaders what's expected, and that maybe that casual style, when we've had to have some of those stronger, tougher conversations, for us has made it felt really difficult. Like we could pull people up on certain things or have some trickier conversations, and conversely, maybe for them, it might have been a bit of a shock that we pulled them in and had to have some of those tougher conversations. So I guess, yeah, having a really clear think about what is your business morals, standards, what are your non-negotiables? And then also everyone's going to manage and lead differently. Absolutely, Sean and I have different leadership styles. And I think listening to our podcasts, and a real benefit from doing this is we've got to hear some feedback from people in our community, and it's been really clear that I think our leadership style sits within that sort of servant leadership space, and you know, we're prioritising that growth and well-being of our team members and our community, but when you have to have those tough conversations, having them really clearly laid out, and those expectations are there for everybody, so that we can, you know, use those as points to go off of and discuss.
Absolutely. So, and thank you to you for helping support me in that realm, because, I know that, as I've talked about before, in those early days, we would be probably a mess if it wasn't for your leadership and your stronger stance, and just more objectivity. You know, because I always hated making people upset, but
I think it's about, it's not, you are a very kind-hearted person, and you always, like you said, want to be serving and pleasing the person that, you know, is maybe asking something of you or looking for support or guidance and help. But I think it's important to understand that you don't have to remove that quality from yourself. You can still be a servant leader and be really kind and thoughtful and caring, but when you actually have to manage a team and you're working towards goals, that you just have some non-emotional, clear standards and objectives that makes it really easy. And people obviously are always still going to have emotions around things, but if you have some really clear standards and objectives in place, that's going to help guide the conversation.
For sure. Well, I think that wraps up our 3 key points. So just a reminder for those, make sure that if you're getting into business, have a really clear understanding of which business structure is appropriate to your context. understand that you often do get what you pay for. So make sure you evaluate as many aspects of your supplier as possible that include the quality, that include warranties, that include where you sit in the scale of their overall business, and then have a really clear understanding of your management style. Make sure that you have clear expectations from the beginning and try to lean on objectivity as much as you can. Jamie, I look forward to making hundreds more mistakes with you.